Hello, this is Dr. Sudarshanam. I'm a professor in VIT Business School, Chennai. I have about 14 years of IT industry experience. I managed projects in IT industry. In this video, I'll give you an introduction on project management. First, we start with a project. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So we'll discuss about each of the elements of a project. Temporary. So as we said, temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or a result. So temporary means everything has a definite beginning and a definite end. The end is reached when the objectives have been achieved or it becomes clear project objectives cannot be met or the need for the project no longer exists. The project is terminated. So basically anything which has a start date and an end date, and the end date is when the end date is reached, either the project's objectives have been achieved or sometimes it gets delayed. It might get rescheduled or postponed, or sometimes based on the contract it might get terminated. So basically a definite beginning and an end date. So it doesn't mean short in duration. It could be temporary, means it could be several, starting from few months to several years. For example, if you look at the metro train construction in Chennai, Delhi, it takes several years. For example, in Chennai, it's almost like more than 5 years has been going on. They do on phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so on. And also the duration of the project is finite. So projects are not ongoing event. Basically, to say temporary, start date and an end date. Also, temporary doesn't apply to the product or service created by the project. Most projects are undertaken to create a lasting result. So it doesn't mean that temporary means the product is also temporary. The product could be everlasting. It could last for many years. For example, metro train, it could last about 50 years, 100 years. Project to erect a national monument, create a result expected to last centuries. Suppose you build a Taj Mahal, it will last centuries. You build a big temple in Tanjore, it will last centuries. Or if you build a dam in Kaveri, Kallanai Dam, it lasts for centuries. So projects often have intended, unintended social, economic, environmental impacts that far outlast the project themselves. So these are all the side things. As you look at it, projects, we need to do a social, economic, environmental impacts before selecting a project itself for what is the impact on the environment and things like that. For example, Kudangulam project, they may have done a lot of environmental study, social study before starting those kind of big projects. Also, the temporary nature may apply to the other aspects of the endeavor. The opportunity or market window is usually temporary. Projects have some limited time frame which produce their product or service. Suppose you are going to make a mobile phone, right? You cannot be working for 2 years, 3 years. By the time the competition will create another mobile which is much better than yours, and by the time you bring it to the market, it will lose the value. Also, the timing also needs to be there. Suppose you want to release it before certain festival time or certain period, so you need to deliver on time. Otherwise, it loses its relevance. The project team as a functioning unit also, if you look at the resources for the project, they are also temporary. They cannot outlive the project. Created for the purpose of performing the project, they will do the project and then the team is disbanded and they are reassigned. When the project is complete, they will be reallocated to other parts of the organization or some other projects in the organization. Projects involve creating something, unique products, service, or a result. So something which is unique, it could be a unique product or a unique service, something not been done exactly the same way before. For example, today Uber comes up with the Uber motto, where they say that they'll have a Uber bike or a scooty that will do the last mile connectivity, that will connect people from railway stations or bus stands to their homes. So it's a kind of a unique service which is being offered by Uber. And similarly, it could be unique products. It could be you're creating some IT product which is unique, or an application, mobile application which is unique, which is quite different from the other similar kind of products or services. A product artifact that is produced is quantifiable and can be either an end item in itself or a component item. Also, projects create a capability to perform a service, such as business functions supporting production or distribution. A result, right? So from a project, you either create a product or an artifact, or a capability to perform a service, such as business functions supporting production or distribution. Suppose you have a team which is capable to do production support or maintenance under a maintenance contract, right? That's also kind of a project. A result such as a new knowledge. You create a new path breakthrough project and come up with a new findings. Say, for example, you do a data mining project. You come up with a new knowledge. You want to see, let's say, the company's sales is down for a particular last 1 year. So looking at everything what you have done, there is nothing you can find out. So if you do data mining, you look into deep data, analyze customer data, and then come up with the reasons why the sales has dipped. So it's kind of a new discovery, new knowledge you gain. So that could also be kind of a unique project. A research and development project develops knowledge that can be used to determine whether or not a trend is present or a new process will benefit society. That's also kind of an example of a project, unique product or service, or a result. Other component of a project is progressive elaboration. It is a characteristic of projects that accompanies the concepts of temporary and unique. So we talked about temporary and unique. Now we discuss about progressive elaboration. So developing thoroughly in steps, continuing steadily in increments. So the project scope, generally when the customer says, they might initially give you in one line. Then you further discuss with them and then gather the requirements and then come up with the scope of work, what you need to do. And then it's made more explicit and detailed as the project team develops a better, more complete understanding of the objectives and deliverables. So for example, if you are in the analysis stage, you start up with a simple requirement and then get into discussions with the customer and then gather all the implicit requirements, explicit requirements, and then you progressively elaborate the scope. Then you understand clearly the scope of work, and then you do a design. While also doing a design, you further understand what the customer would like, what sort of a look and feel they want, how they want that requirements to be designed in the system or in an mobile application. And then you slowly gather the understanding of the objectives and then go into the deliverables. So this is kind of it's progressively elaborated as the project moves from analysis, design, coding and testing, various phases of the project. And also you should not be confused the scope creep. So basically scope creep is something like, for example, they give you 10 requirements and then suddenly they give you 5 more requirements. When you are in design stage, coding stage, if they come and say they give you another 10 requirements, so it's kind of a scope creep. You cannot handle such a large scope creep. So that you should not confuse with the scope creep. Scope creep is adding new requirements. What we are talking about elaboration is analyzing the existing requirements further, understanding the requirements, gathering the knowledge, understanding, comprehending, and then going on to designing and developing the system. Progressive elaboration of project specification must be coordinated with proper project scope definition if it is performed under a contract. When properly defined, the scope of the project, the work to be done, should be controlled as the project and product specifications are progressively elaborated. So, major characteristic of a project is it has an established objective, as a defined lifespan with a beginning and an end date. Project managers move from one job to next once the project gets over. Also, usually involvement of several departments and professionals, usually doing something that has never been, for example, it's a unique thing, set of routines versus customization, as a specific time, cost and performance requirements, high degree of accountability, you do balance and trade-off. So basically you do trade-off between, so you want to say, the customer has to say, okay, I accept it, you can deliver it after 1 week also, but I want it to be within the budget of high quality, right? So customer always wants in high quality within the budget on time. But one of these parameters you need to do a trade-off. Sometimes the scope also can do a trade-off to say that, okay, I'll deliver only 10 requirements, another 5 I'll deliver next month, things like that. So you need to do some amount of balance or trade-off, because you cannot be doing everything under severe constraints of time, cost, and performance. And how the projects are different from operational work. Organizations perform work to achieve a set of objectives. The work can be either projects or operations. So basically, what are the characteristics which are similar? It's performed by people constrained by the resources of time, cost, budget, and then resources, money, and so on. Also by the time. Planned, executed, and controlled. So these are the common characteristics of projects and operational work. But they differ primarily in that operations are ongoing. Operation never end. There is no start date or end date. It's ongoing. Suppose your finance department is doing some work, day-to-day work, it will be ongoing. Your purchase department is doing some work, it will be ongoing. If your IT department is doing some work, it will be ongoing. If your database guys are doing something, it will be ongoing. That is kind of operational work. But projects, operations are also repetitive. There is a lot of scope for automation. You can do a lot of automation. You can have decision support systems which automate several activities of operations. Projects are temporary and unique. So since it is unique, there is not much scope for automation. Probably once you do a design, probably you can automate the coding part of it to some extent. But there is not much, in the sense every project is unique and also temporary. Objectives of projects and operations are fundamentally different. The purpose of a project is to attain its objective and then terminate. So once the project attains the objectives, it will be closed. Conversely, the objective of an ongoing operation is to sustain the business. Projects are different because project concludes when its specific objectives have been attained. Operations, suppose even if let's say your operational parameters, everything is attained, you want to improve you give a new set of objectives and you want to further improve the operation parameters. You say, okay, you tolerate 5% defects, and then next year you say, I will tolerate only 4% defects. Things like that. You set new objectives which further improves your operational efficiency, and looking at things which reduces your operational cost, looking at things which can automate your operational work and reduce the cost, reduce the resources. You want to do with, let's say you're done with 10 people, next year you want to do the same work with 8 people because you have done some automation, you have removed some problems, errors, you have been proactive. In that way it works. Projects are undertaken at all levels of the organization. They involve single persons. The duration ranges from few weeks to several years. It could be joint ventures and partnerships. See some of the examples here. Suppose you are developing a new product, new service, or a new mobile application, or you are designing a new mobile itself. So they are also designing a new transportation vehicle, constructing a metro train, constructing a building or facility, building a water system, running a campaign for political office. Because a campaign would last for about 3 months, 6 months, till the elections are over, responding to a contract solicitation, even for example, social media campaign for a particular political party, that could also be a project. There are many people who do those social media campaign for political parties. Implementing a new business procedure process, or doing a digital marketing, let's say developing a mobile app for a company. For example, many banks, they move from internet to a mobile app. For example, look at Make My Trip. They give huge discounts when you book through your mobile app, Make My Trip app, using your mobile. So because people are moving from desktop systems into laptops into mobile-based applications, which many companies see a lot of business because many people have a smartphone these days. So these are some of the examples of projects. Okay. With this, we'll stop this. Next, we'll discuss about projects and strategy.